Good morning. Being 9 a.m., I'll call to order the McHenry County Board Committee of the Whole meeting of January 15th, 2026. Ms. Althoff will lead us in the pledge today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jenna, will you please call the roll?
Pamela Althoff. Carolyn Campbell. John Collins. Here. Joseph Gottemauer. Terry Greeno. Here. Eric Hendricks. Carl Here. Kaminsky. Present. James Kearns. Here. Dina Krieger. Matthew Here. Kunkel. Here. Brian Sager. Here. Michael Shorten. Here. Michael Scala. Larry Smith. Here. Patrick Sullivan. Here. Paul Thomas. Here. Gloria Van Hoff. Present. Tracy Von Bergen. Here. Chairman Bueller.
Here. With that, I'll entertain a motion to allow Ms. Krieger and Mr. Hendricks to join us remotely. Mr. Scala makes the motion. Ms. Greeno seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Welcome. Good morning. I have a handful of items to report before we begin reviewing the agenda for next Tuesday's voting meeting. Yesterday, we received word that the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration grant that funds the 22nd Judicial Circuit's drug court program was abruptly terminated. However, this morning, there are unofficial reports that this decision will be reversed and the grant will be reinstated. Until this is confirmed, I will be working with County Administration and Trial Court Administrator Dan Wallace about the possibility of the County Board voting on a continuing resolution, if needed, to continue the drug court's funding so that we can determine the full impact of the grant loss and possible funding alternatives. If we need to pursue this course, this resolution will be added to next Tuesday's agenda. I'm happy to report that what all of you have undoubtedly seen firsthand in your committee meetings since the new year, our new county administration team has hit the ground running. County Administrator Scott Hartman, Deputy County Administrator Alicia Schuler, and Assistant County Administrator Adam Latondra have seamlessly stepped into their new roles, and as I said previously, we're going to be doing great things this year. On Thursday, January 8th, I attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony to celebrate the Child Advocacy Center's purchase of its headquarters in Crystal Lake. The center does vital work to help children who are victims of severe abuse and prevent further trauma that would otherwise be caused by the investigation and prosecution of their cases. Yet this is another Advanced McHenry County success story. The CAC was one of the first entities awarded Advanced McHenry County funding, and a portion of it was later used to help complete the purchase. Congratulations to Executive Director Misty Mariner and her staff, and thank you to Scott, Alicia, Sheriff Rob Tatelman, Senior Financial Analyst Carrie Johnson, and County Board Member Carolyn Campbell for joining me at the event. Also last Thursday, McHenry County hosted its annual Government Day event for Leadership Greater McHenry County's class of 2026. Every year, LGMC's class spends a morning learning about county government, what it does, and why it's important, and our staff goes out of its way to showcase the best of us. Thank you to County Administration, as well as our Division of Transportation, County Clerk and Recorder's Office, the Emergency Management Agency, Assessments, GIS, and Planning and Development for participating. Thank you as well to State Senators Craig Wilcox and Dave Severson, and State Representatives Suzanne Ness and Joe Sosnowski for coming to speak. And that's all I have for today. Do any members have comments this morning? Ms. Greeno?
Thank you. As an Indiana University alumnus, I'm thrilled to share a quick moment of Hoosier pride before we dive into today's agenda. Fellow board members, the Indiana Hoosiers football team, my alma mater's pride of Bloomington, has made history by advancing to the College Football Playoff National Championship game this Monday, January 19th, at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida, against the Miami Hurricanes. This marks the first ever national title game appearance in the program's 130-plus year history, dating back to 1887. For decades, IU football was defined by perseverance. Only a few Big Ten titles like 1945 and 1967, and a reputation more for grit than glory. But under Coach Kurt Signetti, everything changed. An undefeated 15-0 record so far, an outright Big Ten championship, the first since 1945, dominant playoff wins, including blowouts over Alabama in the Rose Bowl quarterfinal and Oregon in the Peach Bowl semifinal, and now the Hoosiers stand as the #1 seed, chasing a perfect 16-0 season and IU's first national championship. As a proud alum, seeing the cream and crimson on this stage is beyond inspiring. It's a testament to turnaround, belief, and Midwest excellence. And on a personal note, I'll be there in attendance at Hard Rock Stadium on Monday to cheer them on in person. As a special note of appreciation goes to all the Purdue Boilermakers, players, alumni, and fans who have reached out with support for the Hoosiers during this incredible run. In a state with such a fierce rivalry, that kind of goodwill speaks volumes about Indiana's sports spirit and unity when it counts. Let's send our best wishes to the Hoosiers as they represent our region and university on the biggest stage. Go Hoosiers, bring that title home Monday night. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further member comment, we'll move on to public comment. Just a brief note, public comment is your opportunity to address the board. You'll have 3 minutes in which to do so, at which time the light will come on in front of me as red. If you haven't completed your comments, I would ask you to summarize them. First up, we have Elizabeth Kessler and Lloyd Everard from the Conservation District.
Thank you, Chairman Bueller. Good morning, County Board members and staff and members of the public here. Elizabeth Kessler, I'm the Executive Director for the McHenry County Conservation District. It's my honor to serve in this role. And with me is our Board President, Lloyd Everard. And what we're here this morning to tell you about, I put a place card at your desk here, is our Forward to 2040 plan with a vision to 2071, which is our centennial year, and it is our comprehensive conservation plan. This is a really exciting project. I know you've been doing comprehensive planning here at the county. And really what we want to share with you is this is an opportunity. We have lots of requests that always come into the district of we would like more trails and we want more and you should be taking care of this. And with the success of our proposition, it was to help take care of a lot of our deferred maintenance, but we have to prioritize that. And so we are promoting, we have established a technical advisory group with sectors of the community, with many representation of the divisions of the county, as well as other areas that will be serving in that role and working with staff and board. We have our stakeholder meetings, which are for special interest groups, and they are invited with their delegates to be able to provide comment and help us shape the plan. And then, of course, the community is vital. And we are holding 2 open houses. So February 18th and March 4th, one will be at the Lost Valley Visitor Center, and the second one will be at McHenry County College. On the Conservation District's website, we also have a landing page with information where members of the public can also provide comment and start to help shape, and we'll have a community survey, a statistical survey that will be going out as well. We are doing this in collaboration with the McHenry County Conservation Foundation, which is our philanthropy partner. And again, we just want your help in helping to get the word out. We want to hear from everyone.
Sure, not only helping us get the word out, we'd also like your input. We have so many different projects that we'd like to do, and we really need help in prioritizing which ones we should do and which ones we should table. Everything from historical preservation, where we have buildings that we don't know what to do with that we need input on, to projects where we have great resources that are not open to the public now, but with the proper planning could be open to the public. So again, we welcome your input.
Thank you.
Next is Susan Smith, followed by Andre Zinga, I can't read the name, and Chuck McClurg.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing for public voice at your meetings. My name is Susan Smith. I live at 3860 Crabapple Lane in the Deer Path subdivision in Wonder Lake. I know this is not on your agenda today, but I wanted to have as a resident of McHenry County, I wanted to have my voice heard before you take the final vote on the proposal for the slaughterhouse at Sunbury Farms. I'm here to strongly oppose that proposal of building a slaughterhouse on that farm. And I know that Greenwood Township has already formally opposed. Wonder Lake's president has written a letter of opposition, and last week the McHenry County Zoning and Appeals Group voted it down 6-1. So there's strong opposition in all areas. My main concern is safety. Safety, traffic safety on Greenwood. There is no access to this property. The owner of the farm is allowed an easement access, which is a single-lane gravel road. As you well know, the Harvard slaughterhouse fire brought in 14 fire departments that day to try and battle that fire. There is no way all those fire and emergency vehicles could get in and out of this property safely to get to a fire if there was one. As a neighborhood, my front door, is 1,000 feet from where he would build this. And yes, he says he's follow all standards and do it correctly. But he's also stated that it is not visible to anyone, so he could have done this without permits and just gone ahead and done it. Well, that attitude to me tells me he's not about following all the rules. So I'm here to say, I hope that you will accept and honor the vote of the Zoning and Appeals Group, because we've spent days and days and days and hours and hours and hours at hearings twice, 2 rounds of it, and they really have all the information. So thank you.
Okay, next with Paul Makarowicz, followed by Valerie Ciziak.
Hello, County Board members. My name is Paul Makarowicz, and thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. That's probably the first time in probably 10 years, so appreciate it.
I have a lot of Polish friends.
Oh, awesome. Even better. I'm here to represent Railway Solar, which is on your docket today. I know that it's kind of contentious within this neighborhood, and especially with a few other stakeholders in this area. And for my company and for what I like to do, we're here to build the best project that fits in everybody's opinion and design, and from the county all the way down to the people that are living on the street. We're always here to open with work with stakeholders. We're always here to listen to the community, because this is something we really want to serve the community rather than something that would be a blight. This project is community solar, even more so now when energy prices are rising through ComEd, through Ameren. This power is going directly to the distribution grid rather than being bought and sold and sent somewhere else. And this is going to be benefiting the local infrastructure. Of course, here I am developing this project, and I'm here for it. But just as a person, I understand, the challenges that we always have to make with coming into a community here. So we send out flyers. We have a dedicated stakeholder team which answers those emails, answer those calls, and we're always here to work with the communities that we serve. So I'm also here for any other questions, and for any people that are here for the community, please find me after this meeting, and I'll give you my information and we can talk about things that you were concerned about. But really do appreciate everybody's time today, and thank you.
Valerie Ciziak, is it?
Good morning. My name is Valerie Ciziak. I live at 6405 Dunham Road in Union. I've lived there for 29 years this coming May. And the reason I'm here is because I want to oppose this solar farm. Oh, my glasses. I forgot my glasses. Okay. Some of the items that I want to bring up are the construction causes the erosion, the soil compaction, the water runoff, and it's all affecting. There's a natural aquifer recharge area directly underneath where they want to put this solar farm. why would you want to put it in that place? Why not put it someplace where you don't have an aquifer, where it's not going to be affecting, the water tables, the water runoff, the water that we're going to drink in our private wells. There are homes on both sides of this property. This is not a good area for it. There's a horse farm on one side that people and horses live in, and on the other side is a residential home. Not to mention, just across the street is a myriad of homes down West Union Road, as well as Dunham. Why wouldn't you put this in an area that does not have homes, does not have people that are going to hear when it goes, the power, I'm sorry, okay. The heat from the panels heats up the air, causing harm to the birds. This is also a migration. On an aquifer, there are a lot of birds that come into the area. That's a big wildlife area. I live very close to that. There's a lot of coyotes. Now you say you don't want coyotes, but they do live there. And when the trains go by or a fire engine, you hear them constantly. They're in our yards, they're walking around. And as well as raccoons and squirrels and possums and all kinds of other animals. Why do they have to be relocated to something like this? The other thing I wanted to point up, I'm kind of going off my notes here. I don't know if anybody has seen, if you go down Route 47 and you go past Morris, Illinois, on the east side of Route 47, they put up a solar farm there. And we went by and they had a storm. And we saw all these panels, the first row, and when I say row, they're massive, it's long, it's a big area. Broken, smashed, all the metal is just curled up from the rotation or the wind or whatever it was that went through there. The panels were broken. What about the
If you could summarize your comments, please.
Well, thank you very much. I know I didn't follow my notes, but we are opposed to this, please. You wouldn't want this by your house, neither do we, please.
Nancy Stumbaugh, followed by Michael Stumbaugh.
Hi, my name is Nancy. I'm not really good at public speaking, so I'm going to try to stick to my notes and what I have here so I can speak out clearly. My name is Nancy. I'm here today to express my concern about the solar farm that may go up behind my home. This is my haven, my safe haven, my only place to live. We've moved out here to get away from the unhealthy city atmosphere. We feel safe here. We spend most of our time and effort setting up our home in a way that we want, adding things to our backyard so that we can enjoy our peaceful country life. In the 10 years that we have been here, I've never felt unsafe. Unfortunately, that safety is being threatened by the solar farm being put in behind my home. Our water is being threatened. Damaged panels can easily contaminate our water because they're sitting directly on an aquifer recharge area. How would you feel every time you drank a glass of water, cooked, or filled up your dog's water bowl? You're wondering whether these harmful materials are poisoning you or your pet. Once the water is contaminated, there's no going back. I'm also worried about the EMFs and the frequencies and these frequencies are dangerous and we will be exposed to them 24/7. I worry that my weak immune system will cause further problems. There isn't enough research to show that living 150 feet away is safe. Are there studies showing the solar farms will not affect our heat or our weather in the area as well? We do not want to be guinea pigs here. There's also emotional and mental effects living next to a solar farm. Spending days in my backyard will be a constant reminder of the dangers that it may be doing to us. This will cause mental emotional harm. We will be forced to look at this power plant and hear the humming inverters for the next 30 years. This was supposed to be my forever home. This is the home This home has become a part of who I am, and growing up, you pictured your dream home. I found it here. Before my mom passed last year, she saw me safe and happy in this home. That memory is now being threatened. If this solar farm is put up, I will never feel safe. I will always be wondering what kind of damage it's doing to us, to our pets. Hopefully you can put yourselves in my shoes. Nobody would want to live next to this big solar farm. I'm asking you to consider the health and safety of the neighborhood and deny this application. The board was elected to speak on behalf of the people of McHenry County, and we are here today to tell you that we do not want this in our neighborhood. Board members need to vote with your hearts. If you approve this project, the board will be taking responsibility for the damages that would be done to our health, and knowing that there is an unknown and the unknown health risks. We ask you not to gamble with our lives. Thank you.
Michael Stumbaugh?
Good morning, board members. I'm here today representing myself, my family, and many of the neighbors who could not be here today. We're very concerned with the Railway Solar Project you will be voting on next week. A lot of our concerns are the same ones you've been hearing from other communities. You've been put in a very tough spot. Your hand is being forced by the state to basically rubber stamp all solar projects, but you're also obligated to protect the residents of the county from dangerous things being brought here. Solar farms are relatively new. What I mean by this is they've not been around long enough to know what kind of health effects they may have on people and animals. And this is the problem. Where this commercial solar farm is being proposed is near a lot of people and animals. People who do not want this solar farm will be forced to have it near their home, their sanctuary, for the next 30 years or more. There are electromagnetic frequencies from these solar farms that are not yet understood. Who knows what kind of damage this will do to people long term? People spend a majority of the hours in their lives in or near their homes. The state says 150 feet is safe. How do they know that? We cannot believe inconclusive research, most of which has been paid for by the solar industry. This solar farm would be entirely located on a sensitive aquifer recharge area. It wasn't too long ago when McHenry County spent a lot of time, money, and resources to identify and protect these important parts of the county. These recharge areas are where our most important resource is generated, our water. We drink this water. We cook with this water. We bathe in this water. It is troubling that we would consider putting equipment on this land that could possibly contaminate it from something as simple as a hailstorm or wildlife running through and cracking a panel. We are better than that. All of these health risks are bad on their own, but when you put them all together, they have a stacking effect. This is a real thing, and we should not be gambling with their consequences. Are there not enough open areas of McHenry County that we have to squeeze these solar panels right next to homes? There are counties and groups right now working on getting the state legislation reformed to be more reasonable. Reasonable buffers between solar farms and homes is what we need. I think it would be the responsible thing to do to deny the ones that are right next to homes. The law will change, and when it does, it will be too late for people like us who are forced to live next to something that may harm us if this gets approved. I'm asking all of you to do the right thing. Show the courage you showed last month when you said unknown health risks do not belong right next to homes by denying a solar farm proposal that was just like this one. Solar companies can always find new land. We cannot get back our health once it's damaged. Thank you for your time.
Okay, that's all who signed the sheet that checked to speak. If anybody else would like to speak, now would be the time to do so. Otherwise, Miss, come on up.
Good morning to the County Board. My name is Andrea Zinga. I live at 9345 Ryan Court in Wonder Lake. I am here in strong opposition to the proposal for a CUP and 5 variances to put a slaughterhouse in. The request is from Sunbury Farms. As you have heard this morning, the Zoning Board of Appeals denied that 6-1 at their last meeting, and their primary reason for it seemed to be that they did not feel the plan was properly prepared, that it well, one board member even questioned the petitioner's veracity, but be that as it may, it's all on record. You can all read it. We have fought long and hard against this. I think my main point to you would be that the county does not stand to benefit from this in any way. There will be no new jobs because the petitioner wishes to have his 4 employees, who are untrained, by the way, as is he, do the slaughtering. There will be no sales tax because he is proposing to sell this fresh meat online and at his 5 other farms around McHenry and Lake counties. There will be no property tax because he would only be building a building on this land that he owns. The land is landlocked, and he, as you heard Susan say, said that if he had just not bothered to go for permits, we would not have noticed. Well, if you listen to the testimony from residents of the area, some of whom live about 1,000 feet from this proposed do-it-yourself slaughterhouse, you will hear them say that they're already having to abandon cookouts because his employees come and spray pesticides and it gets all over their meat. So the point I'm trying to make here is that it's very, very close to many homes in Deer Path and Woods Creek. Those subdivisions have been there for 25 years. He has owned that land for a couple of years and did not request permits from the county to put a U-Pick farm in there. So I would just like to ask you, when you vote, to please look at what the Zoning Board of Appeals had to say. I believe this is coming up to you next month. And consider that, in my opinion, the primary purpose of government is to protect the people. Now, he has never had one single person other than his attorney come to testify on his behalf. He skipped the Greenwood Township Planning Board meeting he was invited. He skipped the Greenwood Township meeting. Probably one reason they were not really excited about his petition, but they also saw the folly in it. So please protect us, and thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Dan Wisey. I live on 7106 Dunham Road, probably about a half mile from the proposed solar farm installation. I'm opposed to it for a variety of reasons. Number one is a health reason. This was mentioned before. There's an aquifer that, rainfall fills that aquifer. I have a well. I drink from that well, bathe in it like the other fellow said. I'm really concerned about the groundwater pollution. And one way that groundwater can be polluted is from 2 things that I think are really serious. Is one, that when these solar panels, it's really hard to keep those things sealed over time. They all lose efficiency, but as the seals crack, the chemicals leach out. The government published a study called An Updated Life Cycle Assessment of Utility Scale Solar Voltaic Systems Installed in the United States. It has 20 pages out of a 160-page study that lists the chemicals that are involved in the construction of these solar panels. When the panels break, rainwater gets in them, the chemicals leach out, go into the ground. Disaster. But the other thing is, there's always a situation with these solar farms where you have to control the weeds, because if the weeds grow up, then the sun doesn't fall on the solar panels. So what are they going to use for weed control? Roundup? Every time I turn on the TV, I see these ads, saying, were you involved with Roundup? Do you have the disease caused by this that's crippled you for life? We don't need more tons of Roundup put on the ground a half mile from where my house is. It's going to pollute the groundwater. The other thing is that it just destroys the agricultural nature of that western side of the county. But I have to say, I'm aware that our society needs industrial plants. And I live within a half mile of 10 different businesses, plants that have gone in on South Union Road and West Union Road over the past 10 years. I didn't object to any of them because all of them put up buildings with parking lots that are filled with cars every morning of employees that come there to work. You put up a solar farm, there's no building on a solar farm. There's no parking lot on a solar farm. Nobody works there. These are absentee owners putting up an installation so that they can take the government subsidies for this up front and then just leave it to do whatever it does. If it breaks down, do they care? Not really, because the money's up front in the subsidies, not in the operation of the solar farm. Why do we want something going in that's not going to employ anybody in McHenry County? Big objection for that reason. And the last thing is end-of-life issues. When these solar farms actually cease being productive,
You could summarize your comments, please.
who's going to clean up after that? It's too easy to walk away and say, oh, let somebody else clean it up. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Board. For me, I live right across the street where the solar farm's gonna take place. I live at 19009 West Union Road. In my 35 years of storm sewer, I've done every tollway in Illinois. That's what I do, is run off water for everybody. This is an aquifer area that we really cannot touch. I've disturbed every bit of Illinois you can, and I've gotten every McHenry County from Randall Road we're doing. This is just an area we gotta leave alone. So do your best judgment on it, but I'm just telling you, with everybody's drinking water around this area, this is gonna disturb a mile around this area, not just that one little acre, 70 acres or whatever. Thanks.
Thank you.
I live on, in the area of the possible solar farm there on Dunham Road in Union, and,
Pardon me? Ma'am, could you state your name, please?
oh, my name's Sally Wisey. Is that good enough? Okay. And I live on Dunham Road in Union near the, where the solar farm is wanting to go in, and I'm just concerned that it's going to take away workable farmland. It's going to leave our, you know, once they're done with it, they'll just leave all this mess there. I'm concerned about possible leaks of chemicals into our well water. I don't know. I'm very much against it. That's about it. I don't know. So mostly the well water and just what it's going to do to the area there. It's just terrible. So I ask you to vote against it. Okay.
Seeing no further public comment, we're going to move on to new business. Do any members have items from next Tuesday's agenda they'd like to remove for discussion? Mr. Smith?
In the zoning petitions, 10A2, the railway solar. Thank you.
Mr. Gottemoller?
These aren't mine, but I know Mr. Kearns had them on his notes, so I'll read what he had. 16B23 and 16B29. It may be B12, but sorry, I just.
B29, you said? And B212?
16B23, 16B29, and I believe it's 16B12. It has to do with the squad cars, is what I know he was concerned about.
Mr. Scala?
13A, 17B, 1 through 5.
17B?
1 through 5.
Any others? Seeing none. Mr. Smith, 10A2.
Yeah, thank you. On this petition, we've all received many letters of opposition. Obviously, there's several people from the public here speaking this morning. We're put in the position again of balancing the validity of the citizens' concerns regarding this petition against what the state of Illinois is going to require us to do and do whether we pass this or not. It's my understanding the state of Illinois has once again put us in financial jeopardy regarding the legal fees when it comes to these solar petitions and their attorneys if we don't pass them, and the potential for lawsuits. So I thought that conversation would be appropriate this morning. If anyone has anything particular about the solar farms, or I guess I would ask Adam or our state's attorney's office to speak to the bill that was recently passed and our liability regarding the lawsuits that could or possibly come if we don't pass these solar farms because of the state of Illinois legal stuff. Would you do that for us, Adam? Thank you.
Yes, I can do that.
I was going to invite Laura up here too.
So, I mean, if you're asking for.
Would you like to step up?
Thank you, Ms. Scary.
I can speak in generalities. I can render an opinion for the chairman regarding the analysis, but I can tell you that the law goes into effect on June 1st of this year. So with respect to the attorney's fees, that's when it would apply.
Is that anything filed after June 1st or?
Yes. So generally, that's how the law is being interpreted.
And I understand that, but what would keep someone who was denied a petition at this time from filing a lawsuit after June 1st? And whether you want to call it, I'm not a lawyer, whether you want to call it grandfathered in or whatever. I mean, they could still do that, correct?
Well, a lawsuit can take place after June 1st, yes. But the law pertains to the denial of the application, and that precedes the enactment of SB 25, or at least going into effect as of June 1st of 2026.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Altoff?
Thank you. To every single person who did speak with regard to concerns about solar development, solar farms, let me just tell you that there's 18 people up here and we feel your pain. We are extremely frustrated at the lack of authority that has been taken away from this body into trying to regulate or control these developments. If you've read the newspaper, you understand that Illinois has doubled down on its desire to increase the amount of electricity we produce here in this state. We're definitely on the bad end of this continuum. The denials, I believe, I'm opining here, the denials that were given before had very specific valid issues that you hear that may in court give us stronger standings. But if we don't have those specifics, we're at an extreme disadvantage. We are working very, very actively. We are participating in task forces down in the state, in Springfield, working with other counties, trying to roll back some of these restrictions. I want to assure you that we're doing all that we can within the legal process that we have. But we want to be clear that when we do try and deny petitions, that we have valid reasons to do so. One of the denials at last month's meeting received a denial from the ZBA. All of the petitions in front of us on this specific agenda that we will consider on Tuesday received affirmative votes to approve. Just making all of that kind of clear to everyone here on the dais, as well as those of you in the audience. But I can assure you that there are 18 people up here that feel the pain and have the same frustrations that all of you have. Thank you.
Mr. Gottemoller?
Yeah, I would add, Laura, the concern that I have is, yes, attorney's fees may not go in until June 1st, but the statute we're currently operating under still says we have virtually no authority to say no. Or if the ZBA says we're within the criteria, and the criteria is pretty easy to meet, you have zoning of industrial or agricultural, and you have a setback. That's basically the only three things we're allowed to look at.
I don't disagree with your interpretation, Mr. Gottemoller. There are, and let's be clear, with respect to some of the solar farm cases that are being litigated, there is an argument that is being made that by some of the counties that there is some discretion that can be accounted for. So it's just a matter of interpretation, but here's the thing, I do not disagree with your interpretation.
Okay. I just don't, I did speak with some of the public out in the hallway, and I want to make certain they understand the dilemma that we're in.
Yes.
And I would be more than happy to side with the general public on this. I don't particularly think this is a solution to energy problems or to what we have here, but they're not giving me a lot of they're not actually concerned about my opinion in Springfield. They've demonstrated that twice now with the statute that's there now, and another one that they signed last week. It's going to go into effect in whatever, 60 days
correct.
or 90 days. Thank you.
Ms. Greeno?
Thank you. To look at solar as increasing energy output would be tantamount to filling the ocean with an eye drop. And there's a lot more to consider than being sued by the state of Illinois. We're going to be looking at environmental damage and health and safety. This very week in Kane County, OSHA visited a production plant that is a client of mine, and they did an exam because of the lithium batteries in that plant. And they were basically, because of the rare earth mineral shedding from the lithium batteries, every person in that plant has to have a complete physical exam. They are told that they can no longer handle these lithium batteries, that have to be in full body suits with respirators. This is what we now have to do. This is in real time. So it's very foolish for us to proceed as if we hold no liability. I can't help what the zoning board does or doesn't know about the safety of lithium batteries and about the productivity, but we're in Illinois. So if you look at the entire solar energy with a 10 to 15% efficiency overall, this includes Texas, Arizona, any place where it's sunny, and then you look at Illinois, where we dropped to 5 to 7% because of our weather, then you look at, because of the extreme in our weather, it drops the lifespan of these, and also then the volatility of these batteries. And then, as someone mentioned today, when these things crack, all of these rare earth minerals then do go into the soil and water. And I have to tell you, when I came on this board, I was looking at putting a Tesla solar roof on one of my outbuildings. And thank God, by the hand of God, I didn't. I was completely neutral. I was completely sold on that this was a viable solution to energy. And as I continued to research it, I was shocked at what I found. I had just been sold a bill of goods. And anything that the government is taxing our utilities to get us to pay to subsidize, we need to be suspicious. So it is our responsibility, and there's a lot more at stake here than just being sued by the state of Illinois. We've got the life and safety of citizens. I'm about to pay for it through my business, and we're about to pay for it through our liability. So we have to have our eyes open And there's no time to pussyfoot around this. We have to stand against it. I can't be responsible for a zoning board that may or may not be aware. And looking at the criteria, who set up the criteria? They may not be as informed as I am, and I'm no expert, but I have looked into reports from safety engineers for this industry, and I am shocked at what they're reporting in their own industry, to their own industry about how to handle this. And I'm not even talking about lithium battery storage. I'm talking about simple solar farms, which are a fraction of the danger that the lithium battery storage is, which is another subject. So I just want to make this public comment and that for our consideration. I will never cast a vote for support of this. This is something that would be immoral. And I'm saying that sincerely. It's something that you simply cannot do, you do not do. So defend us, find a way, make a way. We've got a legislation, we've got legal. So let's get armed and prepared and find other people who will go arm in arm with us against this central planning Marxism at our state.
I don't disagree with your comments, but what I would really like to do is keep the conversation to the specific agenda item and the merits of the agenda item. I mean, we can discuss these things all day, but the item that we're discussing here is this particular project. So if we could keep it focused on that, that would be wonderful. Mr. Sager?
Thank you, Chairman. I want to reiterate the comments that have been made by colleagues Smith and Altoff. The efforts of this board and the McHenry County Council of Governments, municipalities, townships, is very much to try to work in a partnership with colleagues in Springfield and to help them to acknowledge the fact that the legislation which is there, which they support for renewable energy source development here in the city, and excuse me, in the state, are important to them, but to help them to understand that there has to be some degree of local input and authority to be able to determine the right locations. So they have, in effect, kind of overtaken our zoning authority here in the county, and I think that's inappropriate. I think that we last year kind of heard from colleagues that why do you do this, legislature? Why do you say that it has to be approved by the county boards? Why don't you just take the responsibility yourselves and say, we're the ones that approve all the solar farms. You don't have the authority to approve them, and you don't have to worry about them because we're taking that responsibility. But they don't do that. They turn that responsibility over to the counties with the restriction that we have to approve. And we can't make inappropriate conditions a part of that approval process. We can't do those things. Now, that's on one side. I want you to know that as we go down to Springfield again this year, that's one of the initiatives, is to allow a partnership to exist between the state and the counties and municipalities. It doesn't exist right now. So, our hands are tied. And I'm going to say something now that is kind of different for me in a way, but the fact of the matter is that when we vote, we still have to look inside. We have to look at our own values, what we believe the values of the community are, because we are representatives of the larger community. And we have to ask ourselves, plain and simple, regardless of the law, regardless of the hands being tied, what is the right thing for me to do? What is right? That becomes, in some respects, emotional, and I have never wanted or tried to vote on an emotional basis, but I have voted against higher authority sometimes when I just don't think it's right. And so I don't think we should ever be afraid of doing what we think is right. We go home after a meeting that we voted such, we look ourselves in the mirror and said, I did what I thought was right. And then you go back to bed and you go to sleep and you get up the next day and do the same thing all over again. But right is important. So I encourage everybody to think about what is right for us in representing the residents of our county in this particular issue. Thank you.
Mr. Kearns?
Thank you, Dr. Sager, on your opinion there. I appreciate that a lot. I've, in the past, before the state law, had voted for the solar farms. I have since voted against most of them, and for various reasons. But I think it's important now that with JB and the gang, you know, basically bullying the rest of the world here, taking our authority away and sidestepping any opposition, that what's important is we have to look at the only way we can win these cases is to prove the LaSalle factors. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the LaSalle factor again?
Well, I can summarize them generally for everyone, but approximately 7 factors that come into play. How the proposed change fits with the adjacent properties and zoning, the diminution in value of the properties, public welfare versus hardship, suitability for zoning, how long the property has been vacant, consistency with the community's long-term land use plan, evidence or lack of evidence for the need for the proposed use. So that's generally what the LaSalle factors are.
Okay. So they have some flexibility in there for the welfare of the community of water contamination potential. Is that correct?
An argument can be made for that, yes.
And I would argue in a couple of these, I don't say all of them, so I will be voting differently than I normally do. But some of these, we can apply public safety and welfare. And I'll state the one that comes to mind with myself is Union has that area has contaminated water from environmental, industrial contamination. And the leachability of that particular project in the soils there are a high percentage of ability to contaminate. So I would vote no on that particular one myself because of that. And before the meeting, I would hope that you can argue with me, someone can argue with me why my vote would not be a LaSalle, part of the LaSalle. That's what I would like to know before I vote on Tuesday. If my argument of the possible water contamination at that area, that particular area is a reason to vote yes or no. So I'll leave it at that, and I just want to express my opinion. But Mr. Sager, Dr. Sager, I agree. Sometimes we have to look at our heart and what's right and wrong on some of these things, and sometimes you have to pick to choose your battle. But with our financial situation here, I don't want to enter any more lawsuits than we have to, but I want to make sure that we can win those lawsuits or have a chance to win those lawsuits. So, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comment on this item. Mr. Kearns, I just want to clarify the items you wanted pulled off for 16B23, 16B29, and 16B212. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Item 13A, Mr. Scala.
I gotta pull it up, hold on a second. So 13 was,
Radios.
So, yesterday at Finance, we had a very healthy discussion regarding, not the validity of purchasing the radios, but how to pay for them. And, so if you have a good hour of your time, you want to listen to the Finance meeting, that portion of it at least, we had a good discussion about it. It is sitting on new and unfinished business because the committee could not agree. There was 6 members there, and the committee could not agree on how to exactly pay for it. I think the committee was in agreement in regard to half of it coming from capital, but the other half that's currently in the resolution that is all coming from RTA was what was being discussed. I had made a motion to amend to have that second half of the capital, or the second half coming from RTA, be divided up as 600,000 from RTA, 600,000 additional to capital, and 675,204 from fund reserves. That did not pass. It was it failed 3-3, and then we went back to the original motion, and then that did not pass 3-3. So on Tuesday evening, I will make a motion to amend again with that 3 areas being the second half of that, and the board can then have a discussion about whether they find that meritorious or not. Basically, the premise behind why I was doing what I was doing was, you know, RTA, you know, we had a long discussion in transportation, not only pertaining to this resolution, but also to the 5-year plan. And the 5-year plan has several things in it that were taken out. You can find that at the TNC agenda because of the lack of funds that TNC has, that, and not 100%, but primarily because, you know, the different areas we are taking as a county board money from them. So, you know, we took $500,000 already for squad cars. You know, they gave up their levies. And so because of that, the staff at TNC are making choices about what projects are not going to be funded, or what projects are going to be moved out or completely out of the program. And so I felt that an additional $1.2 million from RTA is just, it's causing more problems for me on the transportation side. I did feel that 600,000 was warranted due to the fact that that is roughly the amount that of the radios that will actually go to transportation themselves. So they were kind of paying for their own stuff, I guess. So I didn't really have a problem with that, but that was the reason why I had modified it with the other things. I didn't feel that the rest of the money should come out of capital because, again, looking at the long-term needs of the county and the capital program, you know, again, we're making decisions based on the needs of the county, and I don't feel that depleting the capital fund is a wise thing to do, because there are things that we need to keep up so that, you know, our buildings and the grounds and everything else here can operate. And as we've discussed numerous times, you know, the longer you wait to do stuff, the more it costs, and potentially you cause further damage, and which will then cost more to fix it in the future. So that was the reasoning behind it, and that was what happened at Finance yesterday.
Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to clarify for those who watched Finance yesterday, or those who were there, Transportation received a $2+ million grant that is basically can be used for just about anything. And I equated that to being an offset to the $1.8 million we're talking about coming out of the RTA fund. After looking at their plan last night and then asking some more questions, that really is not an offset that can happen. That $2.2 million is really not available till 2028. So it has no effect on what's going on in 2026 this year. And I want to make that clarification so people don't think that those things offset each other. They do not. So I wanted to make that clear. And that was my ignorance yesterday when I brought it up. I agree that the fund should not have to come from the RTA fund. This county has a long-standing practice of using those funds for transportation projects. Other counties in the areas that have gone off that have found themselves in a lot of trouble from a budgeting standpoint. And what we saw happen yesterday, that the chair mentioned earlier about $2 billion getting pulled for mental health, was going to affect the sheriff's department as well. And those are the types of things that happen that we have to think about and account for in this. In November, we had a vote on our budget. As part of that process, we all recognized, or should have recognized, that these dollars were going to come from the RTA fund based on the budget we approved. That was very, very clear to me. And I think that those are the decisions that we're going to be making now going forward based on the budget that we have and potentially the budgets we'll have going on in the future. You know, these funds are there and they're available for safety. And clearly the radios are a safety issue. And while it's going to affect transportation projects this year and the years outgoing, those are the decisions that we took upon ourselves in November. And I appreciate Chairman Scala's trying to figure out ways to work around that. But if we take $600,000 from the capital project from the general fund and $600,000 from reserves, those are going to have implications in 2026 and 2027, just like the $1.8 million is going to have effects in 2026, 2027, and 2028. And they're tough decisions to make, but I believe that we need to move forward as based on the vote we took in November, and that is for this money to come from the RTA fund. Thank you.
Ms. Altoff.
Thank you. We discussed this very issue at Law and Government as well. And building on Mr. Collins's comments, one of the variables we did discuss is how unusual it would be for the board to utilize RTA funds for anything except for transportation. Again, we have the ability through statute to be able to use it for public safety and transportation, but we, knowing how important transportation is to McHenry County via roads and bridges, decided that we would make sure that those monies were really always allocated to transportation projects. So in committee, one of the comments that I have not heard yet, and I want to make sure it's on the record, is that this would be a one-time access to these funds for something outside of transportation, just because, again, we're at a crunch with our budget. So just want to have it on the record that the reason that we did feel that this was appropriate is that it wasn't going to become a habit. This was a one-time dip for something outside of transportation. So I too understand Mr. Scala's comments about, again, I understand why you want to do what you want to do, but that was the discussion at Law and Government. Thank you.
Mr. Sager.
Thank you, Chairman. I've had the opportunity to participate in the dialogue on this in 3 different committees, and I think the one thing that is kind of overriding is the fact that no one speaks against the need for these radios. Everybody acknowledges that, and I think we all are trying to think about how we can move forward with this purchase this year, and so there's no question about that. It's just where the money is coming from. The other thing that I want to point out, and I think my colleague Altoff did a nice job of this, this is a one-time purchase now. This is where we have funds available now. The need is now, and so we have to kind of consider that and the fact that it was discussed to utilize RTA funds during the budget hearings and the voting. The issue is that we really need to start planning now for the next 8 to 10 years down the road when we're going to have to replace these radios again. And it's not going to be lower cost, it's going to be a higher cost. That's just the reality and the nature of the beast. So we have to kind of think about how we're going to do that. So indeed, following colleague Altoff's commentary, is that it is only a one-time thing. We're not going to come back to the same quote-unquote well in 8 to 10 years to do exactly the same thing again and go through this whole commentary. I'm also concerned not just about the purchase of these radios, and this is not on the table right now, but we've also got to purchase cameras for vests, right? We're going to have to do that again. And those things are rotating on a basis of of inventory needs and preparedness. And so all those things are things that we have to consider in the future. I would like to ask, just for clarification, and I think I have the figures here, and I'll read them, but I want a clarification so that everybody is absolutely aware of what the discussion points are by Chair Scala. Right now, we have approximately 560 radios in the county that we utilize across differing departments. That's certainly Sheriff's Department, that's certainly Transportation, that's Emergency Services, and all of those areas utilize radios, and they are important. For Transportation, right now, it's 103 radios out of the 560 radios are utilized by Transportation staff. And the other thing we have to understand is that this is differing types of radios depending upon what the specific use is. The ones that Transportation would use are the cheaper ones, if you will, but cheap is still expensive. The estimate right now is $6,000 per radio. $6,000 per radio. On the docket at the moment is the request to pay the entire amount of the purchase of all of these new radios with the RTA funds. That is totally about $3.75 million. $3.75 million. However, capital is going to pay for half of that. So we're looking at one half of that coming out of RTA funds in the Transportation area. So that's 1.875204, $1,875,204 that we're needing to come out of those RTA funds. The proposal on the table, and I'm not going to say that I support it right now or don't support it because I've still got to have a lot of consideration, but the proposal on the table by Chair Scala is that we do it proportionally. What is the proportion of usage that Transportation Department has, and that comes out to be about 18.39% of that total cost, 18.39. So the question on the table is, should Transportation through RTA funds pay their portion in Transportation Department, or should they pay for the totality of the $1.875204 million out of RTA funds? So those are kind of the data statistics. If we reduce that to our usage estimate, about 18.39%, that's going to be $600,000 for Transportation. That's why Chair Scala is saying that's our share. Maybe we get it from other places then to share in this cost. That share would then come out of capital, which is already contributed by 50%. So now where they're increasing their percentage by, a significant amount, and reserves, we all know what we do when we dip into reserves. So I think we just have to kind of be aware of the situation in terms of the figures, the data that represents. Thank you.
Ms. Greeno?
Thank you. I asked a lot of questions yesterday in the Finance Committee regarding this, basically just to validate for the record what the discussion had been from June regarding the radios and the capital expenditures and what had been earmarked. And one of the things that I appreciated about the funding for the radios was the source and where the source of those funds come from. So I just wanted to ask our CFO, Weiss, what is the source of funding for the RTA funds?
The RTA sales tax.
RTA sales tax. Are there any other sources of funding for the RTA funds or Transportation?
So in the RTA fund, they also receive bank interest, and I know the DOT has been working closely with Treasurer Kurtz on a successful investment strategy. And then they have some other grant-related revenue, but that's outside of.
Okay. And just so that the board's clear, where does the motor fuel tax go?
So the motor fuel tax is in a separate fund, and that is restricted to only transportation projects.
Okay. Okay. So is there any part of the levy that goes into that?
No, the only fund for the Division of Transportation that receives property taxes, well, a very small portion to the bridge and match, and then the rest is to the highway fund, which is their operating fund, their personnel and things like that.
But bridge and match is zero this year, correct?
10,000, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then where we're talking about taking, possibly splitting out the other half of the funding for the radios would be the general reserve and the capital?
Correct.
Right now?
Yes.
And where are the funds generated for those two? Are they all from levy?
So the source of revenue for the capital fund is just a transfer in from the general fund. So really when we talk about capital in general, you know, we set aside money because we know we're gonna have capital projects for the general fund departments. So each year we set aside a transfer to fund the capital fund, but really you can argue that that comes from the general fund. So the sources of revenue, you know, we talked a lot about in the budget for the general fund is property tax, other taxes, fees, charges, those kinds of things.
Okay. So when we're talking about how to fund these radios, and the way I was looking at it yesterday would be what, as far as a ratio, would be the least impact for the other half of this funding. And for me, it was the RTA, because we're talking about something that has an annual cash flow going into it in the RTA fund, so it's being replenished through these taxes, which right now are pretty healthy. So it would be better to have them come from RTA, plus it's a one-time shot. We're talking about a 3.7+ million for these radios, and yes, we can plan ahead, and yes, we have some other fiscally responsible things to do in looking at our spending in other areas so that we can cut our spending versus continuing to increase our taxes. These other two options impact our levy, and we don't want to get in a situation where we come into the budget and we're going to be looking at a look back again. And now is the time where we have to consider that. So this is very important going into Tuesday's vote, that we have our eyes open about the implications of what we decide to do on where these funds come from. So I just want to kind of bring forward what we were discussing in the Finance Committee and probably why the vote was split. So thank you very much for the clarification.
Mr. Kunkel?
I appreciate the mechanics from Dr. Sager and Mr. Scala. I like the fact of how that seems more equitable between departments. I also firmly believe the RTA monies should be left for transportation. God knows we have the bridges and the roads that need it. I understand that completely. But this board as a whole made a consensus about this budget that we would tap this RTA source one time to make this thing right. Anything that we vary from that program at this point will change the trajectory that we set out with in November. This isn't a thing where we can act like November didn't happen and all of a sudden there are many, many more funds here to be shifted around. Had those funds been available, Carrie would have obviously notified us and told us that these monies were available. This is, I don't want to call it an emergency response, but this was the consensus of this board via vote that we would tap this RTA one time to bridge the current fiscal situation that we have. 27 and going beyond, that's going to be a whole nother set of gymnastics. But right now, this is the path this board set. This was the work we put on our back, and to divest ourselves or to dump this workload off now onto other departments and other departments' budgets, I don't feel is fair. I do like the idea of making the departments equitably inclusive in their budgets to pay for their radios, especially as Dr. Sauger said, this is coming back to us again, and probably not in 10 years. The way technology goes, this one went 7+, we may be looking at 5. So I love the mechanics that we're working with. I love the mathematical gymnastics we're doing now. And I think this board could look at that for the future. But right now, we set forward on a plan, and in order not to rob some Peter to pay Paul, we have to stick to that plan this one time. And then I, like many, I'm going to zealously guard those RTA funds from this point on. That was our decision via vote in November. Thank you.
Ms. Von Bergen?
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that I will be supporting Member Scala in the motion that he will be presenting on Tuesday night. Initially, during the Transportation Committee meeting, I voted to take the proposed funds from the RTA taxes. While the committee did engage in a lengthy and productive discussion, we really didn't identify a specific alternative to take these funds from. Removing these funds from transportation would directly result in projects being delayed or stopped altogether. These are extremely important projects that involve safety measures, but I believe having transportation pay directly for their portion is the most fairest way to reduce the amount coming from the RTA taxes. Thank you.
Mr. Scala?
I just want to clarify two comments that I've heard so far that I don't feel are 100% correct. So, you know, we've talked about using RTA funds as one time for special stuff. I question the validity of that comment because the board made a decision in November to fund cars for $500,000 from RTA funds. That's a reoccurring expense that we have every single year. And so I think it's disingenuous to say that we only use it for special occasions. That wasn't a special occasion. It's something we deal with every year. It's a reoccurring expense. So I have a problem with that. The second part is the board decision in November about our budget. This was not a discussion whatsoever. Carrie had pointed out on numerous slides when we talked about what our capital program was and what our capital program needs were, but we never specifically discussed the radios. We never specifically discussed where the money was coming from to pay for it. It was just simply in a slide that said, this is a future capital need. Board, you need to be aware that this is going to be a discussion we're going to have in the future. So whatever we did in November really has no consequence at all on what we're doing right now, in the sense that we're talking about it now and we have to make decisions now. I will 100% agree that the decisions that were made in November have a big ass impact on what we're trying to do in the future, but not specifically to this particular resolution. And the last comment is the proposal that I'm bringing up, meaning 600,000 is coming from capital and 675,204 from fund reserves, is not impacting any department. The only department that I'm trying to not impact as much is transportation. So there isn't any other department that's being impacted by what I'm proposing. Thank you.
Mr. Kearns?
Okay, I have spoken against this RTA fund being used even in the fall, and not for the radios. The radio, I never thought or understood or took it to be as coming from RTA funds, that it would be coming from capital. And because the look back failed, they obviously are saying they don't have as much funds in the capital general fund. And for whatever reason, we don't seem to have as much money in the general fund as was anticipated prior to the budget hearing and the budget vote. So that being said, what I do know is before us today are some other resolutions, and the RTA fund paid for the squad cars, which is coming forward today. That came out of the RTA fund. I'm assuming that fund was transferred, which is the fund that's being used on, I pulled it, it's one of the ones I pulled anyway. Those funds were transferred from the RTA, I'm assuming, over already to pay for the squad cars that are before us today, the 9 cars and the 2 motorcycles. Is that correct? Has those funds been transferred yet?
We haven't transferred the funds yet. What we typically do for something like this is when all the cars are received and upfitted, we'll look at the total cost of that and then do the transfer based on that.
Okay.
But
But
it's
it will not
budgeted-
exceed 500,000?
No, it cannot exceed 500,000 because that's what we budgeted
Okay. And
for the transfer and for the expense on the general fund.
okay, and after we pay for those cars, there's a remaining balance in their fund for that line item of 29,000. If it goes above 29,000, will we be back for an emergency appropriation?
I'm not.
If they have another expenditure in that line item, they only have 29,000 left in that line item, the sheriff's department does,
For the squad cars?
for squad cars. That, they have 500,000 in that line item when you look at the backup. And it is appropriating 473,000, leaving 29,017 in this budget line. So if they have another expense, or if it comes in at $40,000 above the 473, okay? If it comes at $40,000, then do they have another place that they can grab that money in their budget, or does that come back to RTA?
So the squad cars are budgeted in non-departmental. And there is a line for sheriff vehicles of 500,000 and a line for non-sheriff vehicles of 200,000. And we work really closely with Rob in the garage on the purchase of both those lines. And really, he anticipates the need for both categories. So he can pull from either of those budgets. But as far as what's transferred from RTA, that can never go above 500,000 because that's what's in the RTA budget.
Okay, so we should not, we will not cross that one-time promise that we made. Okay, so I'll move on to my other issues here with this, why I've talked about in our, all three of the, or two of the committees. I have an issue that we are taking away from safety projects for transportation, for our roads, for our safety issues. And this does affect safety on that side of transportation. And you can't say because we have all of this money in the RTA. One of the other ones I pulled was RTA sales tax, the county portion. We're rolling forward that the numbers have been encumbered for projects and future projects. Those numbers have been encumbered, a lot of that portion of RTA. And as we dwindle the surplus of that down, we're gonna find ourselves, how do we pay for that? Just like we the taxable part of the levy for operations for the transportation department. We dwindled that down to where it was so bad we had to bail that out. You know, and because it was, and so that's a problem. When you keep taking money from departments that it shouldn't come from. And I agree with Mr. Scala, the department it should come from is the general fund, capital fund on the general fund side. That's where it should come from. I wholeheartedly support RTA tax supporting part of it. But then this board cannot promise what the future board does at the end of 2028. We cannot dictate that past next year's budget. We can't dictate that we won't take RTA funds because we didn't take the look back. I don't know if we have the opportunity to still take that look back or not. And we didn't take it, but so we have to live with that. And this is, as one of our representatives said, Payne kind of guy likes to have Payne that we have to make that decision. Okay, well, we're making some decisions, but let's make some decisions of what we kind of talked about in the past, that is a one-time deal. One-time deal this is not the first time we've raided the RTA funds. It's not the first time. And it won't be the last time. I'm sorry, it will not be the last time. We're gonna come back, unfunded mandates, cuts from the federal government. All of us are suffering, every department is suffering from the cuts that you all discussed about part of them this morning, but that's not all of them. They also cut our bridge and matching funds. They also cut that, and that's through 2028 for sure. So we've changed all that, and we are gonna we have to cut costs that we've been spending money on, and that's probably gonna start with township bridges that we haven't brought any into the program. So that's gonna come. And when we fund those bridges, those township bridges and everything, that comes out of our funds that we have to spend, not tax funds. Those are operation funds that our levy is. They're gonna come out of RTA funds, motor tax. They're gonna come from those. But as JB and the gang put more unfunded mandates on us, our solar farm situation, and now overtaking the transportation, Metra, RTA, and that board to make a supermajority, they will at some point, and you can tell me we can't bet on what's to come. And I say the same thing, don't bet on what's to come when it takes our RTA, when we keep using our RTA. Don't bet on what's to come that we won't have that funding. Totally. They tried to wipe it already in the beginning before they passed their new thing with all the different expenses and take away the authority of McHenry County and the Collier counties. We no longer have any say in what's decided there. And that decision that they make is who gets the RTA tax money. Our county portion can be wiped out, it can be cut, it can stay the same, it can be increased. We don't know that, but it certainly says when you keep borrowing money at the state that you don't have, you're gonna take it from somebody else. And pretty soon, at some point, everything implodes. We're doing that to transportation right now. We have projects 5 years, 10 years, 20 years out. And if we continue to dwindle that funding source, because we want to say that we don't have the money, and we force ourselves not to have the money, okay? We force ourselves not to have the money every year. We think that there's money out there to burn in our funds, in our fund balance. But when you encumber, and we move it forward of the RTA tax of $43 million, those are projects that are already decided on that we have to fund. And if we keep dwindling that balance above that, it will be gone. We will have projects that we will have to cut even further. Now, we cut because of the squad cars and the matching fund, the additional 700,000 that we took off of the levy for the transportation. So that we now lost, what's that, $1.2 million? But prior to that, in our budget for transportation, we removed $500,000 from the matching funds. A minimum, we reduced our levy by $500,000 there, prior to taking the 700. So RTA and transportation has taken it on the chin, and it's suffering safety projects currently and in the future that we removed. If you read your 5-year plan that is before you this week, if you read that, you will see projects that were removed. If you analyze it, you'll see projects that are delayed. And those costs, we can't fix it. And when you're taking more money out of these other projects, it's for future projects, it can't fix. Someone asked yesterday, cameras are coming forward. Are you going to promise that cameras coming forward do not come from transportation and RTA? $600,000, I think it was stated yesterday, in that committee, that going to come forward on cameras. So you're going to tell me you promise not to move in the future years RTA funds? No, you can't make that promise. That's a dumb promise to make. You can't keep that promise. And so I agree wholeheartedly. I don't care where it comes other than RTA. I agree with Mr. Scala, Chairman Scala, of the $600,000 for transportation for their portion. If that goes up by $100,000, I don't think I even care about that. But that portion is for what we're using in maintenance. Now, our fund balances for RTA, I keep hearing the statement, tax money is spongeable. I keep hearing that. Makes me sick, because it's not. It's spongeable within departments, but it's not spongeable across by taking money from one department to the other at the cost of safety. I'm all for we pay for the radios, but Chairman Scala of Finance really brought up the accurate point of that general fund, capital fund, is not designated. It's there. Last fall, when the budget was approved, that was the argument for the people who did not want to look at the look back, is that the general fund was way overfunded, that we could bring that down. Now you're saying, no, we don't have the funds in the general fund to bring it down? You all voted to not take the look back. You voted to take the CPI. Thank goodness we at least took that, or we'd really be sitting in a big problem here. But you voted not to take the look back based on the general fund being solvent and above 6.5 to 7 months. And now you're telling me that it's not there? That's why I want to know. Why isn't it there? We based our vote off of that, on the look back. It was based on that theory for those who voted. Those who were voting for the look back based it on what could be done and what was needed. Those who voted against the look back and voted for the other, and some voted for nothing at all, tell me where you're going to come up with the funds. Tell me, I keep hearing from people, we waste so much money. Well, then in your committees, because transportation, we do look at that. And I've said, when people said there's ways we could purchase this equipment and maybe equip them ourselves, I says, I'm open to look at that. Give me the ideas. Let's discuss it. Let's discuss it with transportation, see if there's a way that's cheaper, or does that create a problem if there's a cheaper way to do things. I don't have a problem with all of that. My problem is we always fall back on transportation, as we have since I've been on this board. Transportation has, and at one time, they did have the funds that they could support the rest of the general fund, that they had given up their levy for the general fund, which put them in a way that they couldn't make payroll hardly. They couldn't pay expenses. And so it was over. It's a swinging pendulum when you continue to do this if you don't address it. I'd like to address at some point, someone needs to address why our fund balances are not what we thought they were. Something needs to be addressed there in the future, in the near future. And I just have an issue. I just have this issue, and I'm sorry. We want to be hard-headed, and we want to say there's all kinds of money in RTA tax and fund. And there is not all kinds of money that's not going to cause safety issues in our future projects. It is going to cause, and is causing, safety projects to be set aside. And I'll leave it at that. I'm kind of disgusted that we say things that are one-time issues when we have no control other than the term that we serve. Someone else is going to come in here and say, we need to take the tax increase every single year, the maximum, everything. Someone's going to come in and say, oh, wait, we don't need to have a tax increase this year because, hey, we don't care that the state is putting more unfunded mandates. Transportation on inflation, the reason our budget is out of, and I've changed my position on taxing, is the last 3 to 4 years in the last administration, for whatever reason, our inflation skyrocketed. You blame it on whatever you blame it on. COVID, policies, whatever. Facts are facts, and that's what I like, facts. It blew us out of the water. It blew transportation out of the water. It blew sheriff. It blew everyone out of the water. And that's why we're in this situation. We cannot sustain this any longer. I've always claimed and proposed sustainability to projects and this board and to levies, saying at some point you don't reach sustainability. Well, we got there a lot quicker because of the inflation. Now that inflation has slowed, but those costs for transportation projects are not going to go down. It's not going to go down for radios. It's not going to go down for cars. It's not going to go down for any of that. But our future projects are going to cost a lot more money. Okay? And if we keep dwindling these funds in the transportation side, you're going to find yourself sitting here saying, how do we do it? How do we even pay our bills? How do we even keep the lights on? And that will be where I don't even want to be around when that happens, because it's coming. It's coming if we continue this. So I will not vote for this resolution unless we fund other than RTA, and I won't go above the 600 or 750,000 on that. I will not vote for that, and it does need a supermajority, and I'm sorry to put that on you, on everybody, but I am a no vote on the resolution as it stands. Not because I don't believe in the sheriff's department, I do, and I've been a huge supporter of them, and I do think they need these radios, but I don't believe funding it on transportation's back, RTA funds, after what we took in November and gave up in our budget hearings when other departments didn't participate in any of those cuts and spent more money. there's got to be other funds in those departments, if you don't want to take it from the capital fund, that they can move around a little bit. So I will leave it there. You know, time is of the essence, but time isn't of the essence on passing this. It is of the essence because when they took the possession of the radios in December, they made an agreement to take them, that they would get some hours of support, but that was for 6 to 8 weeks. So the importance to pass this is that would possibly go away and cost more money and hours and time to set those radios up. So that part is important that we pass it, but we need to pass it in a way that is equitable. That's all. I ranted enough. Thanks.
Okay, all the lights on my board, everybody's spoken once. This will be your second crack. After these four are up here, we're going to move on.
Actually, I haven't spoken.
Mr. Hendrick, we'll call you next, but what I was going to say was we will move on to the next agenda item. I can't imagine for the life of me there will not be a conversation surrounding this on Tuesday night, so we'll have an opportunity to speak more there. Mr. Hendricks, go ahead.
Thank you. First, I just want to say, I don't know what everybody else's reason was for voting against the single largest property tax hike in county history. But my reason was to simply not lie to the voters and to do exactly what we said we would not do when we passed the mental health board sales tax. And now that that's out of the way, I just want to also say that I'll be a no vote if there is a single dollar taken from the general fund on this. I think it's a pretext to justify a look back this year, and based on what happened last year, I frankly don't trust what anyone says. So therefore, I will be a no vote for any single dollar coming out of the general fund for the police radios. Thank you.
Mr. Kunkel?
I understand that we encumber these RTA funds. I get all that. I know there's not real money there. However, there is money there that sits there that we garner interest. We don't encumber what would be the projected interest on that money, correct? We don't encumber with projects the projected interest that we think we might make on that money. Because on roughly, $30 million, we're making $3 plus $4 million in interest, which easily covers the 1.7. And to Mr. Kern's argument, if we're gonna follow that train of thought that and I'm great with that, then the sheriff's department should pay for their own 500 in vehicles, but the RTA should still pay for their 1.7 of the radios and still split that, because that is a life safety thing that is used by the entirety of the county. Those radios are the entirety of the county.
So it's my understanding that in the transportation program, there is a conservative estimate for interest income. Scott can probably speak more to this. They plan it out based on estimates of revenue. The encumbered funds are actually projects that have already been approved and the money is set aside.
Understood.
But there is fund balance in the RTA fund currently to cover that.
Yeah, the point I'm making is that we are going to earn interest on this money this year, on the RTA funds.
Correct, and I think it's important to understand too that the RTA sales tax for the plan is based on estimates. And over the past couple years, the actual has come in about 3 million higher. And then if you add a certain amount of interest to that, and again, I'm sure that when they redo the plan, they work that money back into the program. But I think it's always something that should be.
Right, and I'm not advocating taking RTA money anymore or any in the future and all of that we just heard from. I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating that we stick with the plan that we set out in November, and we knew we were tapping the RTA for that. I also know we got a great treasurer here in McHenry County. We should let her look at those funds, and she could probably make enough to pay for these radios twice in this fiscal year. So
She
anyway.
is currently working with the Division of Transportation.
She
They have
is
a-
awesome, and I guarantee you she could pay for these radios this year.
She already has.
Thank you.
Mr. Sagar?
Thank you, Chairman. I have a great deal of appreciation and respect for Transportation Chair Kern's earnest commitments, passion, and fervor. So I thank you for that, and I know that that's the type of public service that we hope all of our elected officials hold for their representation. I want to just kind of look at the mechanics so that we're all aware of the mechanics of how I believe this is going to unfold. The item will be removed from the docket on Tuesday nights. The item will have an original motion in concert with what we all know is on the document right now. Then, if the chair is willing to do so, he would entertain a motion to amend by Finance Chair Scala, and there will be discussion and a vote on that amendment, which would include dispersing the cost of the $1.875204 distributed to not only the Department of Transportation, specifically RTA funds, but also to the reserve funds and to the general fund, capital fund. And so that would be the amendment. We'd vote on that. Depends on what happens there. But if that fails, then it's going to go back to the original motion, and that's what's going to be before. So I just want to have a point of clarification that that's the process that it appears will likely unfold on Tuesday. I would like your concurrence, Chair, that that's...
You are correct.
Thank you very much. Supermajority. Yeah, and that requires supermajority on both of those.
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Ms. Greeno?
Thank you. And to clarify, the supermajority is 12. And if the second vote fails, then there are no radios. Also, I just wanted to point out, I've heard the word fungible at least a half a dozen times this week, and it has been used perhaps incorrectly. The source of these funds are not fungible. RTA funds are coming from sales tax. The general reserve, capital fund, which also comes from reserve, are levy. So they impact our property taxes, what we are getting from taxpayers. So this is what the battle was about in November, that I'm sure is fresh on everyone's mind. It is what the battle will be about next November. So every action that we take impacts that, and that is why we had decided to split this between the RTA sales tax. Again, the proportion of this on the impact, the one-time impact of the RTA tax is statistically or proportionately so small that it does not impact anything that has been already planned for those funds. And we respect that very much. We don't want any of these projects to be delayed, nor will they be delayed by this action, and it is a safety action for our county. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next agenda item. Mr. Kearns, 16B23.
16B23 is the emergency appropriation and reappropriation.
Could you sit up and speak into your mic, please?
16B23, my wife tells me to sit up once in a while, too. 16B23 is the emergency appropriation, reappropriate the fiscal 26 budget and rolled forward encumbered budget dollars from the fiscal year of 2025. Okay, so we're rolling forward $132 million, and it's broken out into the different funds. Okay? So the reason I pull this is I want to point out some of the funds that are encumbered moving forward. RTA tax portion is $43,715,000. General fund is moving forward $1,702,000. That is encumbered for projects, right? What's the general fund balance right now? missed a couple balances on a couple funds.
The fund balance.
Yes.
So we're still finishing our audit entries. So I promised Finance and Audit we would have a preliminary audit, or preliminary number at next month's meeting in February. Just based off of what we have in right now, it's close to what I projected during the budget process. So this year would be about a use of fund balance around 2.5 million. Is that what you're asking? So that would lower the reserve to just over 50 million. The unrestricted.
50 million unrestricted, okay.
That's just a high-level estimate at this point.
Okay, no problem.
And just to circle back on the encumbrance roll process, so the reason the transportation funds have very high dollars is because we encumber the entire amount in the budget year that the project is started. And so transportation obviously has many high-dollar multi-year projects, whereas some of the other funds do not. And so what the system does is it actually reduces the 25 budget and increases the 26 budget. That way, so you're not double budgeting for ongoing projects.
Right.
Okay.
No, I understand that. And I'm asking these questions because we have new board members who might not understand that, and some of us older board members who still don't understand that, okay? Just like no one really understands the tax levy, how it actually works. I mean, it's explained every time, no one really understands it. Okay. So another one I want to ask, the American Rescue Plan Fund, we've budgeted 16,916,000, right? I'm rounding it off. So $17 million we have appropriated, we're gonna move forward. How much is in that fund? Is that the total fund? Because we have to spend that this year, correct?
Correct. And if you recall for ARPA projects, we encumber the entire amount when it's passed by resolution. So
Right.
at the end of last year, we had to have all those funds encumbered.
And does that include the interest earned this year?
No, the interest is the fund balance of that fund. It's about 4 million.
So the interest is the fund balance, that we'll have to return if we don't spend it, right?
No, the interest is,
Well, no, wait, just ask me, just answer that
there are
question.
no restrictions on the use of the ARPA interest.
There you go. There's my solution for robbing the RTA tax, I'm sorry. There's my solution. So when you come forward with complaints, you should find a solution. And I think there's a solution that we should use that interest from the American Rescue Plan fund balance. We should use that. Transportation should still pay their $600,000. I'm okay with that. But for that other portion that was coming out of the RTA, we should use that. And that's why I pulled this off, because I want to discuss where these funds are on some of these, because that doesn't affect anything. Doesn't affect anything. So I'm going to leave that because I'm not opposed to rolling everything forward. I just wanted clarification for everyone what these fund balances are and why they roll forward. And our fund balances are higher than what's rolled forward in cases. And interest that's earned on those fund balances can be used to pay for these things instead of taken away from projects, safety projects that we have. Okay, that's all I have on that. And
Can
on
I just
16.
clarify that the numbers on that worksheet are not the fund balances of those funds?
Those are what are moved forward. They're not the
Correct.
gross
Expenses.
balance. And we know that the fund balances are higher than that. We don't have
Correct.
any negative fund balances, correct?
We do have negative fund
Which are
balances.
negative?
FICA, VAC. I thought there was another one. I think those are the two off the top of my head.
And the FICA, we owe that to ourselves, right? We borrowed that money from ourselves?
That is a loan from the general fund, correct. Same with VAC.
All right. And the board, in the discussion in the budget, the board had that discussion of, do we forgive that loan or do we pay it back? That was also there. Okay. right? So that's a future discussion for the board this year, I guess. But yes, I do understand what you said.
Okay.
I do understand.
Just for clarification, because it's, I think, a difficult process at times to understand the exact mechanics of it. So
No,
if anyone has questions.
That's why I asked the question. And I do understand that our fund balances are above or below whatever. And as you clarified, the ones you corrected me. And so therefore, we have places that we can pay for some of these things that we need for the sheriff's department, without affecting other safety issue and safety projects that are not sheriff related. And so I'll leave that at that one. That was 16.3. I think you already answered my question on which one was the squad car, 16.9?
Okay, Mr. Shorten's got his light on here to speak to this item. I'll
Okay,
take
go ahead.
him and we'll come back to the others. Or not. Mr. Shorten?
I wanted to get a clarification, the $4 million in ARPA interest, Carrie, is that allocated anywhere? Is that part of the reserve numbers? Can we use that for these radios without causing some problem elsewhere?
It is it's not in the general fund, it's in the ARPA fund. It's separated out. And yes, you can use them for the radios. I guess it becomes, just like all the other points of this discussion, is then what are you not gonna use it for needs in the future? Whereas RTA is specific for either transportation or public safety. The ARPA dollars can be used for anything that the board decides.
So
The ARPA interest.
So the ARPA interest can be used for anything the board decides, but there's been no direction from the board at this point as to what those dollars could possibly be spent.
There's been a few projects that are using the ARPA interest, but they're relatively small.
Okay. So in terms of encumbered funds for those,
They're not encumbered, they're just sitting in the fund balance.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Member Kearns that that's something I could get behind, using the 600,000 of the ARPA instead of out of the general fund. I would ask, or the rest of the board, to consider that amendment on Tuesday instead of the $600,000 coming out of the general fund.
Okay, Mr. Kaminsky?
Two things. You were kind of leading down the path that somebody's got their mitts in that till. Is that free and clear, that ARPA interest that we can? Because you were kind of hesitant. And Mr. Chairman, taking Mr. Kern's suggestion, how do we get that to kind of be reality for Tuesday's vote?
Whoever makes the motion to amend would include that as part of their amendment.
There's no restriction.
Mr. Collins?
Sorry, Chair. Just want to clarify something that our CFO said, that ARPA money interest can be used for anything we decide. The RTA money is very restricted. So if you use the interest for this, it doesn't mean, that means that money's not available for a different project. You can't swap out the RTA money for some other project for this. So you have to be careful what funds are allocated and how they can be used. Because once you decide to go that route, it's not like you can take a project later down the road and say, oh, let's just use RTA money instead. You can't do that. So you have to be very careful.
I was looking at, Mr. Kern brought up a good point.
He brought up a very good point. We can use that money for that, but.
Okay, Mr. Collins has the floor. Let's let Mr. Collins finish.
Yeah, Mr. Kern's brings up a very valid point. We could use that money, but that money is money we can use for anything. So we have to be careful on, when you have money that you can use for anything versus money that's very restricted, how we balance those needs out and where we use that money from. That, we have to be very careful about that.
Ms. Altoff.
Great conversations. I love it. That's why we have committee of the wholes. I would just again ask if people do have an amendment that they want to put forward, make sure that we receive that as board members in writing at our desks before Tuesday or on Tuesday night. So we have it in writing rather than just kind of talking about it. It'll be easier for us to know exactly what we're voting on. So thank you very much for that.
A red line version would be nice to provide for us so that we could have it. Mr. Kaminsky, did you have a follow-up? Okay. Mr. Kearns, 16B29, did you want to go there?
No, because it all kind of tied.
16B212, same thing? Mr. Scala, 17B1 through 6?
Oh, 1 through 5.
1 through 5.
So these are the infamous speed studies, and I just wanted to let you know the packet doesn't tell you what happened in transportation, so you would either have to go back to the transportation meeting or you would have to look at what Kathy sends out as far as the voting side of it. But item 1 failed in committee 3 to 4. Item 2 passed unanimously. Yes, I did vote for a speed study reduction. Just, I want to be clear about that. The third one passed 4 to 3. The fourth failed 2 to 5, and the fifth failed 1 to 6. Sure. The first one failed 3 votes yes, 4 votes no. The second one passed unanimously, 7 to 0. The third one passed with 4 votes yes and 3 votes no. The fourth one failed 2 votes yes, 5 votes yes, 2 votes yes, 5 votes no. And the fifth one failed 1 vote yes, 6 votes no. And I wanted to bring up on the fifth item, after, this is in Jim and my district. What? It is corrected? Okay, well then I won't bring that up then. All right, never mind. That was it. That was all I had for those.
Ms. Altoff, your light is on. Is that from before?
Thank you. I want to call out 16B62, the transportation with regard to, is that correct? No, it's the ordinance, I'm sorry, it's the ordinance, 17B2, which is what we're talking about. There was a large contingency from that general area that had constituents. I want to thank publicly Member Krieger for working with her constituents on bringing that forward and providing information. As the former mayor of that area, I got a lot of those phone calls myself. But I would like to ask on record if we can ensure that periodically over the next year, we make sure that we have some kind of a speed display equipment out there so that people are aware that we did reduce that speed limit. There's a lot of safety concerns. So I just wanted to put that on record and look at my transportation people in the audience and ask them if they would just go ahead and do that periodically. Thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no further comment, we do have need for executive session today, so I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session for probable or imminent litigation per 5 ILCS 120/2C11. Ms. Altoff makes the motion. Oh, you know what? Let's do a quick administrator's report first. Scott? Sorry, your first one, I was trying to, leave it to the chairman.
Thank you very much. And this is my first one. I'm so excited to deliver this report. Thank you for this opportunity. On your desks are the county administrator goals for 2026. These were reviewed and discussed by Administrative Services Committee. They provided some input, and I'm really excited to present those to you as kind of the high-level items that I intend to work on, in addition to the day-to-day responsibilities of the administrative position. Very exciting to report that while we were sitting here this morning, we did receive official word that the SAMHSA grant, which funds the drug courts, has been reinstated. So there will not be a need for the continuing resolution on Tuesday. Well, I guess we appreciate the fire drill, but that's gone away. So crisis averted. I do just want to give a shout out to our DOT staff, and this has come up in a number of committees, but they were very successful in obtaining a $2.25 million grant for the Charles Road and Queen Anne Road intersection safety project. This is something that is on their schedule to do, but they received that grant, so great work to them. And as I understand it, the only project for implementation approved in the state, so good job. At the that's wonderful. At the January 6th Law and Government meeting, there was discussion on appointments to the Moringa Rescue Squad, and 2 members came forward, and that's on your agenda. But in connection with that discussion, I think it's really important to note, if you've not heard that meeting, their chief, John Kimmel, gave a presentation on discussions and the opportunity to potentially consolidate the Moringa Rescue Squad, the Moringa Fire Protection District, and the Union Protection District into one unit. That will require a referendum, and there's a lot that goes into it. But I think it's really important to note, and I want to commend those public safety representatives for having these discussions. And it was a very long time coming. Having been served as a Moringa City Administrator, I know that the challenges and discussions they've had in the past. But I think it was really uplifting to hear that those discussions of consolidations are ongoing. So my compliments to them. And on January 9th, the McHenry County hosted Leadership Greater McHenry County, class of 2026. Alicia and I did a little presentation on county government, and that was followed by a presentation by 4 of our state legislatures, Representatives Ness, Sosnowski, Senators Wilcox and Severson. That's not as remarkable as the next thing, and it's my compliments to Board Member Altoff and Alicia for grabbing the opportunity to grab those 4 legislators and talk to them after this presentation and give them a to present the legislative agenda, the draft, and highlight some of the key areas we want to. So seize that opportunity, good job, and at least we got their captive ear for a little bit, and so hopefully we can make a good progress on that legislative agenda. And the final thing is on the back table in county administration, you'll see a whole series of boxes. There's about 30. Those are the AED units for all the county buildings, which were approved as part of this current budget through the risk management budget. I just want to say we're going to be rolling those out to ensure that we have the operating technology here in the event that we have a life safety issue. We are going to be well prepared. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Scott.
All right.
I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session for probable or imminent litigation per 5 ILCS 120/2C11. Ms. Altoff makes the motion. Ms. Greeno seconds. Tiana, could you please call the roll?
Smith?
Yes. You would answer yes?
Gottemoller? Altoff? Von Bergen? Scala? Shorten? Collins? Sauger? Greeno? Kunkel? Kaminsky? Thomas? Van Hoff? Sullivan? Kearns stepped out, and Chairman Bueller.
Yes.
Yes for Mary.
Yes, for me too.
Okay, unfortunately, Mr. Hendrickson, Ms. Krieger, we're going to have to let you go, but have a great day. With that, I will entertain a motion to enter open session. Mr. Collins makes the motion, Mr. Kaminsky seconds. Tiana, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Altough? Here.
Yes.
Collins? Yes. Bottomolder? Reno? Yes. Kaminsky?
Yes.
Kearns? Yes. Kunkel? Yes. Sauger?
Yes.
Shorten?
Yes.
Scala?
Yes.
Smith?
Here.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Van Hoff? Yes. Von Bergen? Yes. Chairman Bueller?
Yes, and then we need attendance? No? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Scala makes the motion, Mr. Collins seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a good day.